In this episode of the Iron Empire, my LTD is going to turn from one ugly engine. In this episode, it is the most tongue-twisting fucking intro. We take a look at my engine bay on ugly engine bay. I was just saying engine bay too many times. I don't like that. I like a fucking idiot. In this episode of the Iron Empire, I'm going to transform the engine bay on my 1982 FD LTD into something worth popping the bonnet for. Alright guys, now this is my 1982 FD LTD. It has been featured on the channel many times. For those of you who haven't been following along, we dragged this thing out of a paddock. I don't think we actually showed that on film, but this thing come from a paddock down south. It was covered up in a tarp and it was looking very sad. It needed a full respray. It didn't run and we dragged it back to Jake's chop shop. I done a little bit of work on getting this thing running. And then we started to do a little bit of paint and panel work. So this is my first full respray. I've done a lot of repairs and custom paint in the past, but it's all been smaller stuff. It's been a guard here, it's been a Harley tank there. It's never been a full respray. I just simply don't have the patience. But this one, I stuck out from start to finish, and this is what we've come up with. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a high-end car. We're talking a 7 out of 10 paint job here at best, and there's a little bit more to do. I need to do the door jambs on this thing. There needs to be a few little repairs, but nothing major. We can get in and cruise this. But one of the things that is aching to be done, it is actually pretty embarrassing of what is under the bonnet. Let's go check that out. Okay, so the engine bay, as you can see, is looking absolutely dreadful. It's still running the factory EFI 6-cylinder 250 cross flow, and as you can see, there's a lot of repairs that need to be done up here. The firewall is eaten out. They're pretty common to rust through here. Fortunately, it hadn't gone too far up into the cowl, so it wasn't visible from the outside, but I figured that there were plans for something under this bonnet later, so I can do that at a later date. I just wanted to get in and cruise it. So we've been cruising it for a season or two now, and it's gonna probably hopefully last me one more before we have to pull this out and start fresh with what's under here. Now, before I let you all in on too much of my secrets, we'll have a look at a little bit of what we've been doing inside too. So going inside, we have tried to retain as much as we can of this car original because one, it's cheaper, and two, it's kind of okay. If we can save what we can, we'll do our best to do so. Now, all the door cards are original. The carpet is original. The console, the dash, most of what you see is as is. We've used a little carpet shampooer and a bunch of interior cleaning sort of tricks along the way to try and retain this. What I did do is bought a set of custom, well, they're off the shelf but custom made to this model floor mats in the same color, so we can try and hide most of that original carpet. It is a little bit worn, but it's good enough to get by. I did also get some interior vinyl spray where I've now painted a lot of dash parts, including the steering wheel. Basically the whole underside of the dash has all been resprayed. I think that pretty much covers the paintwork of what I've done inside. I think there is a little bit of footage that I've got hidden away in the archives that I can show you guys right now, along with a little bit of footage of what I've done when it comes to a stereo on this car. All right, now, of course, I want to get these speakers in well before I'm actually ready. I've got to get these headrests all ready to go, but they're not ready to go. But I want sound. So I thought, hey, I'll get these all mocked up first, and then from there, I can get the headrest sorted and then mount these all up. But at least I know the wiring side of things is all sorted. I'm surprised the amount of originality in this car. Even the speaker wire is mostly all original clips and everything. So, oh no. But of course the headrest goes right here in place. But yeah, obviously I'm desperate to have a little bit of sound in this thing. So I'm just gonna pop these right here. They can just sit there. They're going to mount them. They're just going to sit there in the parcel shelf until I get the headrest all painted up, ready to go and mount properly. Let's plug this one in and see if we can get some sounds. Oh man, full squeezy. All right, see if that works. Okay guys, so now let me explain where I'm at roughly with this stereo install. Now unfortunately, my car has got like no dash area at all. It's a bit hard to see, but this whole section, gone, nothing at all. So even the surround here is broken. That's really terrible footage, so I'll overlay something there. It's super brittle. I mean, the interiors on these things were not good for longevity. They are so brittle. I mean, here's some remnants of what dash is left, and I'm gonna have to go ahead and try and painstakingly glue all this together, repair everything. So when it comes to putting a new stereo in, you can't just slip a new stereo in, obviously, because I don't have it all anyway. But even if I did, the stereo on these things was sort of integrated. They were that wasn't just like a little slot that you can swap a new one into. So I have now gone with a double din sort of unit here. Now I had to buy this universal mounting kit, which was a rip-off. It was like $45. It didn't get me much more than that. It got me the surround that clicks in place, which will make the installation a lot neater, but it's not really making it a hell of a lot easier because I have to modify it and make it all custom anyway. So what I've started off with a bit of an angle here. This is just a bit of scrap that I had laying around. I initially mounted it with that angle at the front, but it was too far deep. I've now switched that around the opposite. So I had to start somewhere and then modify from there. That was the easiest way that I've managed to do it. So I've got them riveted in place. So I should be able to slip the stereo into that and then see how it fits. Once we've got this installed and I'm happy with the fitment, then I'm going to build the surround to suit. I want to try and make this thing look factory. I don't want this to look like a custom install. Obviously, it's a very custom install, but I want it to look like it's meant to be a part of it. See how we go here. Okay guys, now moving inside. I know this is going to be a terrible angle, terrible lighting. Just going to have to bear with me on this. But now I have got the stereo wired up. I didn't show that because that is boring as anything. Stereo wiring is all very, very generic. The only thing you got to really follow your nose with is the car speaker wire, because that could have been changed over the years like it has with this one. But otherwise, all the colors are very universal and super simple. Now, here's the surround, or the mounting bracket that I've got here, and I've chosen 3 screws that exist in the dash already to try and use as a solid mounting point. I'm hoping that everything lines up now that I've modified it. If that is all right, you'll see how that sits kind of central to the hole, and we're going to try and then build the dash to suit it. I don't know what this is. I think this might hold the lights in here. That's got to go in behind. Dude, working on cars like this is so awkward. Like, my ribs are smashed into this console. Lighting is terrible. Such a pain in the ass, but this is going to come out so good. I cannot wait. I've got a vision for this. I've had a vision since day one, and I just know this is going to look the goods. All right, so you'll see the stereo mocked up in place. It is screwed in along the top here only. It is sitting in here loose, and you'll see that I can adjust it by pushing in to get the angle that I want. Obviously, I have to make that a permanent fixture, but the further down I push it, the more in line it sits with the dash here. But also the further in I push it, the worse it is for my angle for sitting, looking at it. So I want to sort of have it facing me a little bit, but I have to make that compromise because it's going to be sitting on 2 different angles.
So now, after playing with this bracket tree for like an hour and a half or more, I finally got it all anchored in place. I got the positioning pretty good, and now I just finally clicked this thing in place, and it seems to be all good. Next up, we got to pull this crusty fascia out and completely rebuild it. I'm going to start by gluing it all together with the Loctite high-end quality glue, and then we'll move forward later on with strengthening up. So hopefully it doesn't break when I go to put it back in.
All right, guys, now you see that I fixed the fascia now. Obviously, it's not quite finished. We have a few little pieces here missing, and it's looking a little bit shabby still. This is the fake wood grain that I'd like to replicate in the rest of the fascia. And yeah, it's so unbelievably brittle that this is becoming a bit of a pain in the ass job, really. Now, another thing is that I have shown you guys a trick before using super glue. This is a Loctite, really, really good glue. And bicarb soda or baking soda. Now, I don't think I have any of that. Of course, that would be too easy. So I'm going to go scrounge around and see what I've got in the cupboard and see what we can use to create a bit of substance for this glue to bond to. And then we can try and get a bit more strength in this, because this is just going to break again. So brittle. All right, guys, now I'm not going to lie, there's going to be a lot of off-camera stuff going on here because it's just so much nitty-gritty farting around that just I can't capture it all. It'll just be boring as batshit. But basically where we're at after doing a repair on this dash section, this is basically the surround that goes around the stereo. There's nothing else that goes in this except for a hazard light switch, which I'm going to put down in this bottom corner here. And I'm still undecided if I'm going to run it in that factory position. I might relocate it. But if I do, I'll worry about that later. For now, all I need to do is basically make up the difference between that big hole and my stereo. So what I'm going to do is use the old speaker box, well, the new speaker box of the speakers I just purchased for the car. Nice thin cardboard, so it's got some rigidity. I can cut that to shape, make up a bit of a template, and then we can mock with that as we put it in and out of the car 500 times, make sure it all works. And then we're going to transfer that to a I can't remember what they call this. It's basically for signage, so it's plastic sandwiched with aluminium either side, and I use this a lot with stuff like this, like custom shit, because you can glue it. It's got rigidity. It's the same thickness as like your MDF door carbs, but it obviously will not weather, and strong. So bear with me, guys. I'm just going to keep chipping away and try and make this a thing, and once we get a bit more progress, we'll see where we're at. All right, guys, now after working on this, okay, guys, so after working on this stereo surrounding for hours on end, I'm finally at a point where I've got to get the design ready so we can print it out so I can make it match this original fascia. Now, my only way of doing this that I can come up with, unless I pull these out and try and scan it, is just simply take a photo of it. I'm going to then put it on the computer. I'm going to modify the artwork so it's all one big sheet of wood grain, I've got to join it all up and blend it and blur it and stuff, and work a bit of magic, and then we'll print out a little sheet, and then I can stick that onto the new fascia that I've made. So I've just taken a photo of this. I'm going to jump on the computer, do some wizardry, see if we can get this thing to look how I planned it to. Okay guys, so after fighting around for a few nights, off and on, just a few hours here and there, just a little bit of time here and there, I finally come up with my fascia. This is a bit of a rough out of how it's all got to be, and it seems to work. It's still a bit of finessing when you actually get it in place. It's a little bit fiddly, but I'm pretty happy with the result so far. Now, there was so much dicking around, I didn't film a lot of it, but I just want to show you real quickly how easily it is to make things and quick with this method. So now usually this sort of stuff, I assume back in the day people would have done it with, you know, MDF or even fiberglass, made up things that are fiberglass, but it's all, you know, this is the method that I know, and it's what's works for me. And also, say for instance, fiberglassing is a bit time consuming. You've got to set it all up, and then you've got to wait for it to dry and cure and all that sort of stuff. But I'm going to show you quickly just a section here of how easy this can be. So for starters, you want to get yourself some 406 Loctite. This stuff is freaking unbelievable. Now, this stuff goes off like super fast, so I've put a little run along there. Just going to hold it in place for a few seconds, but I'll show you how quickly this stuff can go off. There's the tiniest little dot on my finger. Shit is serious. Now, that's already taken. Actually, I've just realised that hardly any of it is actually touching. There's a bit of a gap through there. You want a nice close touch. You want a nice close finish the whole way along, but we can save this. But nonetheless, it's in place. Now, the way I bulk it up and add this sort of contour here and fill in the gaps and really just add a whole lot more strength and structure to it, you then go ahead with some baking soda. You want to pour that in, and you'll see you've got a nice little strip of baking soda there. Simply drip this in place. Simply drip on the and just watch that soak through. You can just use normal super glue, but this stuff is unbelievable, so it's worth the extra money to me. And it's that quick, it has already gone off. So you can now shape that, sand it, whatever you want to do. Run some along the back side as well. What the baking soda is, it makes up a substance where there otherwise wouldn't be, so you can actually you can create sort of plastic from nothing basically, because quite often when you're trying to glue stuff, if you haven't got something there to glue, if you've got a piece broken and you're trying to create, say for instance from there to there, you can see I've got two different areas and I've glued around the corner. It's got a few holes in it, it's a little bit shabby, but it doesn't matter because I'm about to put some filler on this thing and shape it all up so it looks like perfectly smooth. So now that you see how it all works, and it's pretty strong. Like, it genuinely took a bit to break that. And it was a very half-hearted effort. But you see what I mean? This is the result, guys. Now let's get some filler on this thing, start shaping it all up, and then next step is that we're going to wrap this thing with fake wood glue. Okay, so in addition to doing the stereo install in this car, I'm replacing a lot of the interior trims that are broken or missing or the wrong color. So it snowballed, obviously, once I started dealing with the stereo install. I couldn't sort of put broken parts back on. One of the parts I'm going to replacing is this speaker grill, which are quite commonly broken. That sits right there in the dash. The LTD has the speakers down in the door here, which are already loose. I have to fix them up. But so I actually reached out to find one of these, couldn't find one, and then I found that I actually had some would come with the spares of the XF that we bought literally 1 year ago. So I've gone ahead and sprayed this with the vinyl spray. You'll notice that it is a slightly different color, but also you will notice that this is a different color anyway. So this is a factory dash, this is a factory part, and it's different to that, it's different to that, it's different to that. It's different everywhere you look. All these cars were like 50 shades of tan, so I'm not too worried about it being a slightly different color. You'll never spot it in a million years. Okay, now back to the engine bay. It is time to let you guys know of what I want to do with this thing. This has been the plan since day one. We have to go for a walk in the paddock to show you. Let's go. Okay, so over the journey, guys, I have constantly asked you guys what you think I need to do with this car. Everyone says, put a 351 in it. Of course, that would be awesome to do. My first one did have a 351. It would be nice to have that V8 rumble. Nothing beats it, let's be honest. But I have other ideas. I have another plan, and this has been on the card since day one. This is going to be a lot funner and probably a lot cheaper. And it starts with this car in the paddock here. Okay guys, so as you can see, this car is looking a little bit sorry. It's sitting under a gum tree, but it will clean up quite all right. It's a neat car. But let's be honest, it's just a base model Falcon. It's not worth a lot of money. But what is worth a lot of money, or what is worth a lot to me, is what's under the bonnet. Ooh, I haven't been in here for a while. Right. Now, I bought this thing as a running, driving car, and I haven't popped the bonnet in a while. The rats have been in here, I reckon. Yep, frickin' rats. Okay, so as you can see, guys, this has got a Intech 4-litre stock for this car, of course, single overhead cam motor, but it has a turbo hanging off the side of it. This is a backyard DIY special. The old owner done this himself, and it is a very basic build. but it was a good build. It was reliable. It was his daily driver, and I managed to pick it up for a steal. So I grabbed it when the opportunity arose, with this exact intention in mind. I want to transplant this 4-litre, including the BTR 4-speed, into my LTD. Now, there are some things I want to do. I want to probably put a different intake manifold on this thing, or the plenum will be changed. Obviously, there's going to be some modifications to make everything fit in that car, because these never came out in my model. But what did come out was an XG Ute, which is essentially an XF Ute, which is the same body as mine, came out with a 4-litre. So that's why I have the Paddock XG. That's the whole reason I have that car. You guys have seen it on the channel before. I picked that up for like $400 or $500. It's got an LSD in it, and it has all the bits and pieces that I need to make this transplant happen, which isn't a huge thing, but those little parts will make life a lot easier to make the swap happen. And to give you an idea on this engine, I believe it says Intech, but I can't actually remember if this is an AU motor. I think it's an EF or EL motor with a Tickford head on it. It's got an AU BTR, which I believe are maybe a touch stronger. Like, I think it's stock internals and everything like that. And this is running only 10 pound of boost, and it put out, I think, man, I can't remember, there's a bloody dyno sheet in there. I think it put out about 280 rear wheel kilowatts. So obviously by today's standard, that isn't a lot, because people are putting out 1,000 horsepower easy. But you got to remember that, you know, nearly 300 kilowatts is a fuckload of power. Like, that is honestly on the street absolute plenty of power. I think it equates to probably something like, I can't even remember what the figures were. I'll put it in the details below. But by the time you take down, you know, power loss from the front to the back, you're talking like a 400 to 500 horsepower motor, which is a huge power. It's more than we need. It's going to be plenty of fun on the street. And yeah, now you guys know my plans for the FD LTD. Okay, so before anyone jumps on the comments and says, why don't you put a Barra in it? I don't want to put a Barra in it. Barra's been done to death. And although it's not about being different, it's about building the best car that I want. I like the look of these motors. I like the sound of these motors. And this is what I want to do. This thing come up and it just fits. It's what I'm going to run. And I'm going to do my best to retain as much originality in that car as I can. I'm going to try and retain somewhat of a factory shifter if I can. I want to make this look like it was potentially an option for that car. That's the style I want to go with. And by the time we go through this motor and make sure everything's safe, I will be running an aftermarket ECU on this thing. By the time I go through all that, there's no reason why this thing shouldn't put out an easy 300 kilowatts at the wheels, which is going to be a very healthy LTD on the road. There's no way I would have got that sort of power out of a 351 or a V8 build for anywhere near the same money. We'd be talking probably at least double the sort of money. So really excited to get into this project, even though I'm not in a hurry to do so. I have Raceworks on my team, and I also have TI Performance really keen to get stuck into this as well. So I'm really keen to get this up and underway with the help of those guys, using all the best parts and the best knowledge. But it's not going to be for a little while yet. First of all, I've got to finish off a little bit more on the LTD, making it drivable, and then maybe come winter, see how many projects we've got at the door. We might start looking at getting this ready to go to drop in that car. Okay, so that is going to be it for this time around, guys. Now, of course, we didn't actually finish the stereo surround. I still have to get the sticker sorted out. We sort of ran out of time there. But so far, I'm really happy with the results on that. It seems to fit the dash really well. And yeah, I'm pretty happy. Future upgrades in regard to the stereo is I need to finish installing the sub in the back. I need to tidy up that whole boot. It's a little bit messy in there. I do have an amp wired in now, and that's all running sweet. So this thing actually sounds really good for what it is. Also, I'd like to paint up these speakers as well. I'm going to try and retain the factory look. That's why I specifically got small 4-inch speakers for the front to fit these doors. I want this car to look as factory as possible. So that's going to be it for this time around. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out that online store. Support the channel if you're into it. And we'll see you on an upcoming episode.